On the banks of the North Saskatchewan River and home to over 24,000 residents, the city of Fort Saskatchewan has been known for its place in Alberta's industrial heartland. Yet over the past couple of years, the city has been focusing on energizing their community through the arts.
Well, the fort, though it doesn't get as much limelight, is a very vibrant artistic community. It's very exciting to be in a community that is kind of going into an artistic revolution, I guess you could almost say.
The artistic revolution ranges from exploring the arrival of the Northwest Mounted Police at the Fort Heritage Precinct, to the flock of sheep which roams around downtown, to the artisans showcasing the community. With 15 petrochemical facilities located in Fort Saskatchewan, industry is not to be overlooked as it provides the capital needed to focus on creating a complete community.
It's got that, it's hard to explain. It's very calming almost, and it's very encompassing, so you get the big sense of community here. There is that small feel in a city, and that is something that a lot of places have lost or have just paved over, and it's very alive and well in Fort Saskatchewan.
I'm Doug Roxburgh and welcome to Legacy Park, because on this edition we are in the city of Fort Saskatchewan, and join with me is Mayor Gail Katcher. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Doug, and welcome to our beautiful city. And we are sitting here in the 1875 stables in our beautiful historic precinct.
And you touched on the historic precinct. It's the home of the Redcoats, the city of Fort Saskatchewan, and you're wearing your beautiful red coat, I see.
Absolutely. Why wouldn't you wear a red coat when you're in the city of Fort Saskatchewan? Because that's where our journey started back in 1875. We had the Northwest Mounted Police that made this long trek and decided that they were going to bring law and order to this region, and they chose Fort Saskatchewan. Hence, we are the fort on the North Saskatchewan River.
And you own more than one red coat, don't you? You own, what, 7?
I own several red coats because, you know, I like to wear red. It's the color, one of our city colors. And yes, you need to be seen in more than one different style. So it's good.
A mayor with a sense of fashion. Gotta love it. But the RCMP, you said, played a huge role way back in 1875 with the Northwest Mounted Police, and then further became the RCMP. How does that kind of history play into the future of Fort Saskatchewan with the RCMP?
Well, it's really interesting because as they chose Fort Saskatchewan to build the very first fort, they wanted to establish law and order. So with that, you know, they were out trying to make this region a better region. They stayed here till about 1914, at which point in time they decided, well, maybe they would relocate back into Fort Edmonton. You know, otherwise we could be the capital city of Alberta, you know, if they had have actually stayed here.
Don't tell Edmonton that.
I'll be sure not to tell Mayor Iveson that. But from then we continued on with our law and order, because then in 1915, we had the provincial jail that was built. And it was actually built on the existing site that we're sitting on. So, you know, we just continued with law and order, law and order. But then in 1952, of course, then we moved into our industrial revolution here as Sherritt Gordon discovered the salt caverns that we had. And this is when industry started. And then 9 years later in '61, Dow Chemical came. And that's really a lot of our journey from where we've got to where we are now. But we've always embraced the Northwest Mounted Police. And now we have just an amazing new RCMP detachment. And we finally have an inspector after how many years? I think it's about over 100 years, and that's something that we'd really like to celebrate.
And the RCMP are also celebrated with many festivals that go on in town, aren't they?
They are. They come out, they show up at all of our festivals that we have, and they really make a presence. You know, we're so proud of them as they come out on Canada Day and lead the parade. You know, they come out and they're always in their red serge, and that always makes me so proud. So we did have a sunset or a sunrise ceremony on this very site when we opened the 1875 fort. So we invited all of the retired RCMP officers that wanted to come, and we had one of the great-grandsons, and he was here, and he was in his late 80s or 90s, and he was here for the sunrise ceremony. It was beautiful. I was wearing period costume, and you know, it was just fabulous to be able to let them feel how much we embrace what they have done for us, and we need to celebrate, you know, the RCMP and all police officers for that matter.
No question. However, if I go walking around downtown, I won't get arrested, will I?
No, not unless you're doing something really, really strange. But anyway, you know, I've talked about, you know, where we've come to with our industry and how we embrace industry. But as a result of all of the industry that has come to Fort Saskatchewan, of course, as you walk around Fort Saskatchewan, you'll see the beauty, the arts, the culture, and of course the recreation that goes along with this community. And they're huge supporters of that. So, you know, as a result, we have our beautiful Dow Centennial Center that is just state of the art. So if you have an opportunity to go out there, we have the Shell Theatre, and we just have some amazing performances. I'm told that there's over 200 performances a year out there. And of course we have minimum 3 VIP, and we've had Terry Clark, Brett Kissel, you know, and as I sit there and I'm tweeting out in the audience, I'm always going, you can't get this up close and personal unless you're in the Shell Theatre. You can almost reach out and touch the artists. It's fantastic.
That's no question. You talk about these big name artists that come to town, or come to the city, but this city is also known for some celebrities, some homegrown celebrities, aren't they?
We have a tremendous amount of homegrown celebrities. So, you know, I've talked about a little bit about recreation as well. Well, we have several arenas here, but when you think about it, we have produced a number of NHL players. We've had Richard Matvichuk, Joffrey Lupul, Mike Commodore, and Ray Whitney, just to mention a few. And you know, I know everybody's looking to see who the next NHL player is going to be out of Fort Saskatchewan. Keep your eye on Kirby Dack. Oh. He is, when he becomes old enough, I can guarantee you, and you can mark this in this production today, he will be in the NHL.
Well, I'm marking that down.
You know, we are watching him very closely. But we've also had Kelsey Rock. This is her birthplace, and she's out there curling up a storm right now, as you well know.
Mm-hmm. She's doing phenomenally well.
Yes, and of course we have to talk about our actress Evangeline Lilly, and also born and raised in Fort Saskatchewan, and has found her success. So, you know, when you talk about it, Fort Saskatchewan is a place if you want to be for arts and culture and recreation. And of course, when you talk about the Dow Centennial Center, we have the Lottery Gallery, Alberta Lottery Gallery, and our last exhibit that we had in there was Dale McMillan. And he is also a homegrown boy, as I will say, but his artwork, or his photography, is so beautiful. And it has been in Sports Illustrated. And I understand there's our Edmonton connection. He's a photographer for the Edmonton Eskimos as well.
Yeah.
So.
And the downtown, it's been reshaped over the years. One thing I noticed going through the downtown area is there's lots of sheep. What's the deal with sheep?
So in I believe it was in about 1991, maybe 1992, one of our parks foremen decided, you know what, the area that we were sitting on was not developed. It was very rocky, and he said, you know, it's very difficult to get the mowers out there, and we're always having breakdowns. He says, what if? And I love this because I still remember this. And he says, what if we brought in 255 sheep, and that's the number he brought in, and we actually—
That's an odd number.
I know. But he said, what if we brought these sheep in and allowed them to actually graze on this area, the old jail site, home of the Northwest Mounted Police, and on the hills. And so, you know what, the council of the day said, okay, that sounds really cool. Well, it's been about 25 years later. We still have sheep that come to the fort. We don't have as many that come. We have about 50 each year. But our mascot is called Augie, and we're very proud of him. And it leads to that warmth and charm that a community should be offering. And you know, when you have that, you know, the children just want to come out and flock to Augie, and they flock to the sheep. And whenever I'm presenting somebody a gift, it's usually a sheep, and I now tell them they're one of our flock.
So sheep are a little bit better than cows or chickens, then, I assume.
Absolutely.
And you touched on industry and how it's played such an important role in town. I mean, it provides lots of jobs for everyone from Dow Chemical to Shell to many of the other industry partners. I know you're not trying to shed the label of industry, but Fort Saskatchewan's also a family-driven community as well, isn't it?
Fort Saskatchewan is really a family community, and over the last number of years, I'm going to say over the last 6 years, we've grown by over almost 30%. And with that, what we're seeing is the demographics are changing, because people are saying we want to raise our family in a community that has wholesome and has good attributes, and you know, welcomes children and families. So we have a lot of free events that take place. I mean, we have Winterfest. It's totally free. They can bring their kids out and discover what it was like to live in the 1800s. We have Canada Day that offers free events. We have Family Festival. So everything that we do, we try and ensure that we're encouraging the family participation. And I think that that's really what it's about, to say, you know what, if you want it all, we've got it here in Fort Saskatchewan.
And you're also trying to utilize the River Valley more with the revitalization of the city of Fort Saskatchewan, and with the growing population. How is the River Valley being incorporated in the city?
Well, the River Valley, as if anybody Googles Fort Saskatchewan, they'll see that we are built on the banks of the North Saskatchewan River. And the trails, we have about 73 kilometers of trails. So you can go from the very south of Fort Saskatchewan, and as you start at the trail system there, we have the Dow Diamonds, we have Andy's Playground. You can progress on to the West River's Edge Pavilion, where we have a trout pond that you can go fishing, and we have Kids Can Catch, and once again we have sponsors for that, and the kids get to come out and they get a free fishing rod, they get to fish. You can continue on the trail all the way to the east, down to Turner Park, where you can get to the campground, but these trails lead into our residential neighborhoods. They lead up to this historic precinct, so we're very proud. And you know, I'm told we're having we've had Storm the Fort that runs here. We're having a 100-kilometer race that's starting here. But our trails are so significant that we have people come out of Edmonton to train on our trail system. But you know what? It just adds to the walkability, the accessibility, and the fact that, you know what? Take your children, get out, walk, you know, have fun in Fort Saskatchewan.
And of course, this is where you live, so I mean, it's a very important place to you. Mayor, thank you so much for joining us on this edition. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Doug.
I'm Doug Roxburgh, and if you want to have your city or town featured in the Capital City region on Where You Live, just send us a tweet at Shaw TV Edmonton. This is another edition of Where You Live.